Welcome to our channel. Please like and subscribe. What if I told you a small group of colonies with fewer resources, less military power, and no established independence, one of the most powerful empires in the world? That's the story of the American Revolution. But it's not just about war. It's about ideas, control, taxes, freedom, and a decision that changed history forever. In this video, you're going to understand the American Revolution in the simplest way possible. What caused it? What actually happened, and why it still matters today. Let's begin. First, we need to understand the situation. Before the Revolution, there were 13 British colonies in North America. These colonies were controlled by Britain, and at first, things were relatively stable. The colonists had some freedom. They governed themselves locally, and trade was active. But everything began to change after a major war, the French and Indian War. This war ended in 1763. Britain won, but it came at a cost. Huge debt. And to recover that money, Britain turned to the colonies. They began to introduce new taxes. The Stamp Act, the Townshend Acts, the Tea Act. From Britain's perspective, this made sense. They had protected the colonies. Now they wanted financial support. But the colonists saw it differently. They had no representation in British government, no voice in Parliament, so they argued. Taxation without representation is unfair. This idea became a major turning point. Now tension begins to rise. Protests start, boycotts of British goods, public resistance, and then a key event, the Boston Massacre. In 1770, British soldiers fired into a crowd of colonists. 5 people were killed. This event increased anger and distrust. Then came another major moment, the Boston Tea Party. In 1773, colonists protested the Tea Act by dumping British tea into Boston Harbor. It was a bold act of defiance. Britain responded harshly. They passed the Intolerable Acts. These laws punished the colonies, closed Boston Harbor, restricted self-government, and increased British control. At this point, the colonies began to unite. They formed the First Continental Congress, a meeting of colonial leaders. They discussed how to respond. Tensions continued to grow until finally conflict turned into war. In 1775, the first battles took place. Lexington and Concord, colonial militias, faced British troops. This marked the beginning of the American Revolution. Now, the colonies were no longer just protesting, they were fighting. Soon after, they formed the Continental Army, led by George Washington. At first, the situation was difficult. The army lacked training, supplies, and organization, but they had something powerful: motivation. They were fighting for independence. In 1776, a major moment happened: the Declaration of Independence, written primarily by Thomas Jefferson. This document formally stated that the colonies were no longer under British rule. It also introduced key ideas that all people are created equal and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now the war continued for several years, with many battles, some victories, some losses. But one turning point came in 1777, the Battle of Saratoga. The American victory here convinced France to support the colonies. This was critical. France provided military aid, supplies, and support. This shifted the balance. Now the colonists were not alone. The war continued, and eventually, the final major battle took place. Yorktown. In 1781, American and French forces surrounded British troops. The British surrendered, and this effectively ended the war. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed. Britain officially recognized the independence of the United States. Now, take a moment. A group of colonies had become a new nation. But this wasn't just about independence. It was about ideas, self-government, rights, freedom from control. And these ideas spread. They influenced other revolutions, other countries, and the future of democracy. Now let's simplify everything. The American Revolution happened because the colonies were taxed without representation. Tensions grew between colonists and Britain. Protests turned into conflict. War began in 1775. The colonies declared independence in 1776. With help from France, they won the war and became an independent nation. Now, here's the bigger idea. History is not just events, it's decisions. Moments where people chose to accept something or to change it. And the American Revolution was one of those moments where a group of people decided that they would no longer be controlled and were willing to fight for that belief. And that decision changed the world. That was excellent. Please like and subscribe for daily lessons. See you next time.